2. Now I'm good. Opening the meeting for the Blackstone Millville Regional School District School Committee, Thursday, November 12th. If you could stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. And introduction of members.
Steve Tringali from Millville.
Wendy Greenstein, Blackstone.
Erin Vanaco, Millville.
Jane Reggio, Millville.
Georgette Jarrett, Blackstone.
Eric Eisner, student representative.
Dave Thompson, assistant superintendent.
Alan Himmelberger, superintendent.
Thank you. And we have our first public forum. I think we will actually start with our fall athletic team since there's so many of you here. Does the athletic director want to?
Sure.
Jill, do you want to have them come up in groups or all together, or tell us who's here?
We can start. If we could start with cross country because they do have their banquet.
Yes.
Right
Okay.
so why don't we have our cross country reps?
I think they were getting their notes.
Like the bow tie.
I know.
Like that?
Fancy.
I'm loving the bow tie.
State your name.
Gotta say no, we like that tie.
Yes, I love that tie.
You can just start with introducing yourselves and your title, if you have one. And
Sure. All right, I'm Nathan Carroll. I'm a senior at Blackstone Millville Regional High School, and I'm also a captain of the high school team.
I'm Chris Tringali. I'm also a senior, and I'm also a captain.
I'm Noel Aaron. I'm an 8th grader here at Hartnett. I'm also the captain of the middle school team.
great.
Okay, so I'd just like to take you guys through like a typical week of training and running if you're on like the cross country team. So our week kind of starts on Monday, which is just a generic run, usually 5 or 6 miles for a high school team. Then Tuesday, we usually do speed workouts, which vary in distance and pace. One of our favorites is the Symphony of Pain, which happens at the end of every season. It's kind of a highlight of the season. Then Wednesday is usually recovery from said speed workout or run. Thursday is also just a standard run. Friday is kind of a rest day to prepare for Saturday if we have a meet or a long run. Long runs we've done up to about 12 or 13 miles over the season, and then Sunday is rest and getting ready to start next week.
This season, we were fortunate enough to have the opportunity to start our season in Martha's Vineyard. That was a really fun experience for all of us. We took the ferry over. We spent the whole day there. Like even after the meet was over, we went in and we had dinner and we just made a day of it. That was really fun. And this upcoming weekend, this Saturday, we're up in Gardner for our district meet, and if we place in the top 3, we go to states, which are at Westfield State. And another thing we're looking at doing this season is they have a meet for the Northeast region in New York at Van Cortlandt Park, and we're thinking about going to that, but we still need to think about that a little bit. So, I don't know.
All right, for our middle school, we had a very great season this year, and we actually won our District Valley Championship, which is one of our first wins for the middle school. And we also won our Hartnett Invitational, which is held here at the middle school. We came 2nd place. Misco was first. It's a very tough rivalry between us and Misco. Anything else?
No.
Are they at every meet that?
Almost every meet that we go to.
So did you beat them at the
here.
district meet then? At the valley, the district valley meet, did you beat them?
Yes, we
Right.
won, got first place.
How many people run on the middle school team?
We have
About?
around 20 middle schoolers,
And
6th, 7th, and 8th.
And how many high schoolers?
I don't know.
I think for the high school team, our girls team's a little bit on the smaller side, but in total between boys and girls, we probably have like 13, 14.
Thank you so much for coming.
Okay.
Thanks. You can definitely get back to your.
Good luck. Good luck this weekend.
And I know we have more teams here.
You could just introduce yourselves and tell us your sport.
I'm Sarah DeWolf. I go to Blackstone Millville Regional, and I'm the captain, co-captain, of the girls varsity soccer team.
I'm Amanda Alves, and I am also the captain of the girls soccer team.
There's a third captain, my sister Erin, but she's unable to make it.
This year we had our record of 45 girls try out, and we took 20 on varsity. Our record in the DVC was 1-8-1, and overall 5-11-2. We were 4 wins away to districts.
So we needed 4 wins to make districts, which the last time we made districts was our sophomore year. So that would have been huge. It was our goal. It was our goal at the beginning of the year. Sadly, we waited until the last 4 games of the season to try to get those wins, and we didn't. We didn't end up doing that. Some highlights of our season were the fact that we didn't have injuries. This is the first season in a while we haven't had injuries. Last year we had to take off the 8th graders because we didn't have enough people to fill our team.
Wow.
So that was good. We do have a young team because we took all of our high schoolers. So we had 6 freshmen, 2 sophomores, 8 juniors, and 4 seniors. Our coach returned for the 3rd year, for her 3rd year of coaching, and she always does a great job. The program has really done well with her here. Runs practices really well. We trust her. We like her.
And where are your games?
Our games
your
were
home games.
originally on the lower field in the back of the high school, and I don't know exactly something like that, but we moved up to the field on the track for the last couple of games, which was nice.
And practice, is it the same field in the back?
Practice is usually on the lower field.
Anyone have a question?
Yeah, what could we do to help you make districts in the future?
Well, I think, thank you. I don't think it was as much of you guys weren't a huge reason why we didn't make districts. It was just kind of we didn't perform.
Do you have the equipment you need? Do you have the training facilities?
Is there anything else you
Do you
need?
have the fields that you need? Do you have the travel budget that you need? I mean, what's missing?
Well, actually, something we all noticed during the end of the season was equipment-wise. It seems like at the beginning of every practice, all of our balls were just flat. So maybe nicer balls or a pump, one of those electric ones. We had to hand pump all of them. That took a while.
45 girls, is that a high number for trying out?
That is the most, as far as we know, since we've been here 7th and 8th grade, that's the most that we've ever seen try out. And they all returned each day. Usually it drops after the first day. There's the girls that just they're no, this isn't for me. But all 45, first, second, third day, all came back.
Wow.
So that was really nice.
Yeah, it's great to see.
Yeah.
And you're a senior, you said, right?
Yep.
Good. Well, congratulations on your years here, and keep playing. A lot
Thank
of
you.
kids leave
I will.
high school and good. Any other questions for our girls soccer?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Changing hands.
Boys soccer.
You can just introduce yourselves and your sport.
My name is Corey Davidge, and I'm a captain of the boys soccer team.
I'm Eric. I'm also a captain of the soccer team. So we kind of came up with 5 major points we want to touch upon. So first, we're going to discuss our roles as captains. One of the things we did throughout the summer, which was huge going into the season, was we ran captains practices and training sessions. So that helped. Another thing we had going on during the summer was our summer league that we participated in. That wasn't necessarily schools in the DVC that we faced and played, so it was kind of nice to branch out and get some more experience outside of that. And then the last thing I'm going to touch upon is our communication for this year. We used a program called Remind 101. And it was actually called Coach Eisner's class, and that was just one way we communicated. We type in a text into the program, and it sends out to everybody, and they can't respond, so they just see our text. That was one way we communicated. So, as far as role as a captain,
the whole season, both of us always led by example to show the team what they're supposed to do.
So our responsibilities as student athletes, we kind of decided on this unanimously that it's in the name. First you're a student, then you're an athlete. So that's kind of the way we led the team this year and kind of held everybody to that standard. Some highlights for the season.
One of our highlights were tying D1 Leominster. That was a pretty big game for us.
Yeah, my favorite memory from the season was our Nipmunk away game. That game we really worked as a team, and everything kind of seemed to come together finally, and it all clicked. And then concerns moving forward, definitely the field conditions, specifically here and the high school lower fields. They're not where they should be. They kind of tend to progress or worsen as the season goes on. They just get more torn up from multiple teams every day just practicing on there and things like that. I know they're taking some steps towards the right direction, so that's definitely something that could help us. And then one other concern that we had as a program, I know the girls had a really good turnout this year, but we definitely noticed we're losing students to other teams and other schools in the area, because we'll go to a DVC game and we'll actually play these kids and we'll be like, hey, what's going on? But they could be making a big difference if they were in our school system playing for us. Yeah, we also had a smaller varsity team this year. We were kind of juggling a few freshmen between varsity and JV, so yeah.
Yeah, when we were all healthy, we had about 3 subs, so it was kind of a struggle all season with injuries. Some other things that I would like to mention, that a few of our players made all-star teams. Job Sefrenick and Philip Pajopoulos got second team DVC all-star, and I myself got first team DVC all-star, Central Mass all-star, and all-state.
Congratulations.
Well done.
Yeah, Corey.
Thank you.
And he's the second person in BMR history to make an all-state team.
All-state team? Wow,
So,
congrats.
it's a pretty big deal.
Tell them what our record was.
Yeah, and then this year our record, just to finish, was 6-10-2.
Oh.
Yeah, and that is all we have. Any questions?
Corey, do you hope to play in college?
Yes, I'm looking at schools where I would like to attend.
Good luck.
Have you seen the news in the last few days with the new no heading, I think it is?
Oh.
Really?
Did you see it?
Yeah.
It's for the younger kids, but I was just wondering, in your opinion, if you hadn't been able to, practice that and learn it when you were younger, if it would make a difference with a
Is it
opinion. Not that we can make a difference
Yeah.
with that change, but
were they pushing to completely cut heading out of the game?
yeah, for certain age groups, it's not allowed at all.
Yeah.
Then other age groups, they can do it just in games,
Mm-hmm.
but not practice, so like.
I think definitely limiting the amount of impacts to the brain is crucial, but at the same time, it's part of the game, and there's specific techniques that they teach you from the beginning, from like BMYSO age, that should definitely be enforced throughout and reminded of students and athletes, obviously. So, I mean, it's part of the game, and I don't think it would be really hard to break away from that.
at the high school level at
Right.
least, maybe not in the youth leagues.
The way they're talking about it, though, is it may just not be something they learn younger, and then our high school kids might end up at more risk if they didn't use it when they were
Great.
smaller.
Whatever,
so.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, congratulations on a successful 4 years, and
I have one question. You said that we're losing good athletes to other schools.
Yeah.
And, any idea why? What's the whole picture look like?
Some in general, I mean, some are going to BVT, which could be school choice, could not be school choice. I mean, off the top of my head right now, I could think of 3 big-time contributors to the DVC this year that live in the towns of Blackstone and Millville that don't go, which are they really could have made a significant difference this year.
Did those 3 go to BVT?
The 3 I'm thinking of, one does, and then
The other 2 go to Waynesville.
yeah, the other 2 go to Whitensville Christian.
Oh.
Do you think they're going for academics or sports or what else?
I'm not really sure. Everybody kind of has their own reasons or religious views, but all I know is that if they were here, they could be making definitely a significant difference.
I agree.
Thank you.
all right, thanks so
Thank
much.
you.
Well done, Corey. That's big. Stay. Big.
Hi, my name is Allie O'Connor, and I'm captain of the field hockey team.
And I'm Brenna Cook, and I'm also a captain of the field hockey team.
And I'm Jill Tosti. I'm the coach of the field hockey team.
So this year, our big concern was we had a new coach that was coming in. We found out that our old coach was not going to come back, and we lost 16 years from last year that were big contributors to our team. And we also lost 2 of our very important juniors to injuries. But as the season continued, we found out that we could all work together, even though we had a new coach that was teaching us and all the people that left. We ended up really bonding as almost a family.
Our record was 4-11-3. It wasn't as great as we wanted it to be, but I think next year they're going to be a lot better because they have the 2 girls who were injured. They are a huge impact on our team, and I think that we thought since they were injured that we weren't going to do good, and I think it affected all of us as the way we played because we were we lost them, so now it affected how we played. But towards the end of the season, we started realizing that we can do it without them, and we started working together as a team. And our new coach, Tosti, she's really great. It was hard moving from a new coach because you're so used to our old coach. We've had her ever since I started playing field hockey. So knowing that she wasn't coming back, it was really sad, but I'm glad that the team has Miss Tosti because she's a really great coach.
I did not prep them. Well, one concern that I think I have as the varsity coach is the numbers. I think we had about 30 kids try out for 2 teams. We play 11 on the field. So varsity, I think, had 3 subs. We ended up having to bring up an 8th grader, getting an emergency waiver to have her play at the varsity level to allow an extra sub. And with the 2 injured players we had, if we didn't have her, it would have been kind of rough. I hope that we can kind of promote the program a little bit better and get more people out there. I mean, I know field hockey is a sport that you don't really pick up in the elementary school level, so maybe introducing it at a younger age would help with that.
There was a clinic you had done on Saturdays.
Yeah,
that was,
did you do
that this year?
So we didn't have one this summer, which that is something I'm bringing back for the spring and probably again in the summer. Because I heard from a couple of the teachers in the high school that had kids that went to it that it was a pretty big turnout. So getting them started younger would only increase our numbers.
I mean, it's one of the only sports that and probably volleyball. I mean, people just don't have the opportunity to learn or to play or to, and even with volleyball, there are community groups in young age. I mean, it's hard to find, but they do exist. But with field hockey, there's
nothing. And there's really nothing in the area either. not like they can go to other towns for the most part.
No.
We wouldn't want them to anyways.
Any other questions? Great. Thanks so
Thank
much
you.
for coming.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks.
And then I think we have
These cross-country kids, I think you're just because I
Hello, I'm Brandon Boschman, and I'm co-captain of the football team.
I'm Ben Gallant, and I'm captain of the football team. We weren't really prepped on what we were going to be talking about here,
If you could just tell us how your season was, your stats and.
As far as our record has gone so far, we only have 2 games left. We only have 2 wins on the season, but, you know, aside from our biggest kind of confliction is numbers on our team. I mean, at any given time, we'll be lucky to have 22 kids in pads for practice and sometimes less for a game with injuries we've run across throughout the season. But I think that even though we have smaller numbers this year, it's allowed the people on the team to mesh a lot better and create more of a family environment and kind of help our camaraderie out, because in the past years, I mean, the team would always talk about camaraderie, but I didn't see it as much off the field as I do this year. You know, we see a football player sitting alone at lunch, the rest of the team will go sit with them and you know, give them company, especially with the underclassmen that aren't really used to the high school schedule. And that's what I really think that I took the most from and I appreciated the most from football this year, was just that family feeling that we get on and off the field.
What grade are you in?
I'm a 12th grader. I'm a senior.
How many seniors on the team?
What do we have? 7?
No pressure.
I think like 12, 13.
Yeah, it's like 12 or 11.
Yeah,
That's like half the team.
Yeah.
Well,
yeah.
not really, because I mean, I've been to games, you've been to games, and I think I've done a small head count, and 35 or so were lining the field with uniforms.
Yeah,
So you're saying practice?
It depends. It depends, because it changes really on like a weekly basis.
Do you have another town?
And are you talking about
Oakdale?
varsity numbers or?
Yes,
or full team?
varsity numbers. I mean, as far as our varsity numbers are, I mean, they'll hang around 20, 21 in that range, but we don't have really, we have to send some of the younger JV players up to play in some varsity games, because we'll be, you know, low on numbers as far as a separate varsity team. But yeah, with our JV players as well, I mean, on a good game, I guess we'd have around 30 players, but you know, it's difficult sometimes because not every player is acclimated to playing a position they may have to. So that also puts a lot of pressure on the younger kids to learn these different positions, learn the different formations, so that if, you know, an injury happens and they have to get into the game, I mean, they'll know what they're doing.
Yeah. So do you practice together? You practice like
Yes.
against each other? How do you prepare them for that?
We do all practice as a team, but you know, usually we'll do offensive individual drills to where the running backs will go with one coach, the wide receivers will go with a different coach, and the linemen will go with a different coach, and then we'll come together at the end of that offensive practice and do a team offenses where we'd run live plays on a scout defense to try to get that game atmosphere together. And you know, we're subbing the JV kids in with the varsity kids so they can kind of get that game atmosphere and still run the live plays that we'd run in any game.
And how many players are coming from Hope? Is it still Hopedale?
That's a large number of our team.
Yeah, we have all the Hopedale kids are fantastic athletes, all great people too. I would say that like we have one senior from Hopedale, and then a couple sophomores, probably like 3 sophomores, and then 2 freshmen.
So we're hanging around.
Not very many.
Yeah,
No.
definitely not a lot, but the characters we've gotten from Hopedale have played a big role in the development of our team, and like I had mentioned before, the camaraderie. I mean, we've got a lot of great team players that have come from Hopedale, and that I'm thankful we've gotten the chance to merge with that school, because it has given us a lot of better opportunities to meet different people, and on top of that, get more players for our program, and allow them to have a chance to come over to BMR and play some football.
Is there anything else you're lacking, like other than players? Any equipment you need, or any other facilities you need?
We could use a couple more tackling sleds. We could use a couple more of those, because oftentimes when I was talking about the individual parts of practice, we only have one tackling sled. So if the linebackers and the defensive linemen need to use them, I mean, we kind of have to merge that part of the individual practice together, which isn't too much of a big deal, but it definitely takes away from the mindset that you should have in an individual practice of just learning that sole position instead of mixing in with other positions. But I mean, really, the town has done a fantastic, and the Boosters program has done a fantastic job with giving us the best for what we had at that time, and we're definitely, starting to make better strides to getting more stuff with the fundraisers we've been doing, and it's definitely helped out a lot. But as far as new things, we could definitely use another tackling sled or two. That would definitely help us out.
Some practice jerseys too.
Yeah.
This year.
Yeah.
Is there a weight room at the high school?
Yes, there is. We have a very nice weight room downstairs at the high school, and we actually just had the floor replaced with foam matting, and it's definitely a lot better.
Yeah, they fixed
floor.
up the roof as well.
Yep.
Painted the walls.
It
looks nice.
Yeah, it really does look good. We've gotten a couple new pieces of equipment as far as incline bench presses and a new squat rack, which was definitely nice. I mean, it allows us to get more people in there and staying active, as opposed to the first year or two when we really only had one squat rack, one bench press. So a lot of people had to wait around for their turn to get a set in, but we've definitely started to expand that, and it's helped us out a great deal.
Good. Any other questions? Great.
All right,
Thank you.
Good luck.
Well
at
done,
your
guys.
next year.
Cross country forgot to mention one thing.
You missed us?
Okay, so one area of concern we had is one day I took the team for a warm-up. Every day we do a warm-up around the trails. And so one day we went down this trail, and then I looked behind me, and the whole team was kind of scattered everywhere. It was pretty funny, but there were some bees. Yeah, they remember probably. There were some bees on the course, and we thought it was an isolated incident, but it kind of reoccurred a couple times. Kids got stung.
What trail was it?
We run behind Hartnett Middle School. Well, actually right there. And so, yeah, it was just behind there.
I think that has just been brought to our attention recently, so it is being looked into. Thank you for that.
Yeah, and I heard you asking a couple of the other teams what they might need, any additional equipment. And the one thing that we need going forward is a new tent and hopefully new uniforms. That would be great. So, yeah.
Put it in the budget.
Is the tent, you travel with the tent?
Yeah.
You set it up for your away meets and your home meets?
Yeah, we don't have much equipment. I mean, just shoes and a uniform, and we're out there. But yeah, we have a tent to keep all our stuff dry, because a lot of times we show up to meets, we're there all day, and sometimes it's rainy, and we need a place to keep all our stuff dry. So that'd be great.
Now, do you guys use the weight room too? at the school?
I'm sure not as much as football, but usually we just run on the track or either.
Just run.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We don't really use the weight room too often. Indoor track and outdoor track we do though.
Oh, okay.
I'm sure you've seen them running around Millville too.
I have seen them running.
I
Right,
recognize.
particularly one over there, but I
Yes.
have seen him running and running and running and running.
Great.
Okay.
Anything else?
Nope.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thanks again.
Thanks, guys.
That was all of them?
Great.
Thank you for having me.
Sure.
Thank you.
Thank you for
Thank
coming.
you. Sorry for taking some away from their banquet. I hope it's not over yet.
It's still warm.
Yes,
Oh,
thank
geez,
you.
we had the whole.
So
middle
next
school
on the
thing.
agenda are student reps,
All right.
and you're holding down the fort tonight.
Yeah, it's just me tonight.
Okay. I understand there's a big band.
Yeah, band banquets tonight, cross-country banquets tonight, so I'll keep it quick. So the first quarter just ended, and then this week there have been parent-teacher conferences throughout this district. I know the student council has been helping out with watching kids down at the elementary schools and things like that. And as we kind of just heard, sports came to an end. Football and cross-country are still going. I know that football's Thanksgiving Day game, I believe, is actually at BMR this year against Sutton. I'm pretty sure on that. And cross-country still has a meet this Saturday. Then as far as the senior class goes, we just launched our Yankee Candle fundraiser. We hope to do really well on that, starting to definitely save up for prom and the senior class trip. And then we're also doing a dues collection at the same time, which will be one of a few we'll do this year. In student council news, we have our fall conference tomorrow, which I believe we're taking 29 delegates plus myself, and that's at Westboro High School. A lot of planning has gone into that. Powder Puff is coming up, the Powder Puff game, which we have the ladies play football. That'll be the half day before Thanksgiving. That's always a lot of fun. The student council is hard at work planning that, and then pep rally is right around the corner. I won't say much about that now. It's a very special time in BMR, and yeah, so we're awaiting that. And then NHS, the Soul Hope fundraiser that we held was a huge success. The NHS, student council, and NJHS were all involved in that. We made templates for shoes to be sent to a country in Africa. I forget which country it was, but that was a huge success. I believe we made around 50 or 60 templates for 50 or 60 pairs of shoes. And then the bands, so bear with me.
Meh.
Don't get mad at me if I get anything wrong. So they won the national championship for Division 4, which hasn't been done since 2001. They also won Best Visual and Best Percussion. And then upon their arrival home, they were greeted with a police escort and a welcoming crowd. And I think that's all he told me to say.
And tonight's a celebration dinner for them.
Yes,
That's where
and they
Griffins-
sent cupcakes also in New Jersey. And that is all I had for tonight.
Great. Any questions for? Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks, Sarah.
So moving on, we have consent agenda A.
Steve back. Steve back.
That's all right. So we have warrants, use of facilities, field trip requests, and our minutes for October 22nd. Do we want to move all
Move them
together,
all
or
at
does
the
anyone
same
want to?
time?
There were several field trip requests in here, so did anyone have any questions or?
I have one.
Okay.
What's the Mike Smith live? Who's that for? Or who's going to that field trip or what?
Yeah, actually, I was
Like
wondering
high
the same
school.
thing.
It's a high school trip.
Mr.
Just
Dudek,
high
but it
school
doesn't
in general?
specify
Yeah.
who.
Do we have it in the?
A leadership conference?
What does
The educational objective of the field trip is a leadership conference.
Yeah, that's
Oh,
a
okay.
leadership conference.
Okay, all right. So who's Mike Smith?
He's the main speaker, I imagine.
Okay.
Okay, so I'm looking for a motion for consent agenda A.
Move consent agenda A.
Okay, motion made by Jane. Is there a second? Second. Second by Georgette.
I'm gonna run again.
What's that?
I'm gonna run again.
So I think we're going to move the consent agenda to the end of our.
Be coming back?
We'll strike that. Can you strike
that
your
motion?
Strike that motion, and we will move consent agenda A to the end of our agenda when we have Steve back at the table. So moving on to report of the superintendent.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Vanaco. Under A, we'll also hold the vote on the transfer as part of the warrant for the student activity funds. As some of us know, the state has changed a lot of the rules around the use of restraint in schools, and the new regulations go into effect on January 1st of 2016. And I asked our Director of Special Education, Ms. Braverman, to take us through some of the finer points so that the committee and the folks at home understand what some of the changes, the main changes, will be.
If you could join us.
Good evening. So in your packet, you have a general overview of the Crisis Prevention Institute, which is CPI for the district. In your packet, we're going to talk about the laws that take effect on January 1st of 2016. We have 2 CPI certified trainers in our district. We have Jillian Anderson and we have Dawn DeCecco, who really spearhead and lead all the training that goes on in the district, and really have taken a lot of ownership of what happens here in the district. The nonviolent crisis intervention training really focuses on the reduction and the risk of any type of injury. It complies with legislative mandates. It meets regulatory and accreditation standards. It's to improve staff retention. It's to minimize the exposure of liability, and it's to promote care, welfare, safety, and security. What I really like about this program is that when students are in crisis, it's really to approach that student, to handle that student with the utmost dignity and respect at a very trying and difficult time for the student. I'd like to talk to you a little bit about understanding the crisis intervention methods. First, we identify behaviors that can lead to a crisis, and then we respond to each behavior to prevent an escalation. We use verbal and nonverbal techniques to diffuse and resolve hostile behavior, to help the student cope with any fear or anxiety, and assess the risk levels and consider issues that may impact our decision making. We practice nonviolent physical restraints in the least restrictive and the safest manner, and assess physical and the psychological well-being of a student in crisis. The training is so important because it creates a safe environment for staff and for students where effective teaching and learning can take place, where staff are able to appropriately respond to potentially dangerous circumstances and minimize and prevent an acting out student. Therapeutic rapport, which establishes trust, respect, safety, and a commitment to modify behaviors in order to minimize negative consequences for students. And CPI is a research-based model that complies with the current and the upcoming national and state legislation. So there are some revisions in those regulations that will take place on January 1st of 2016, where the Department of Ed has recently published additional guidance to the current regs, and these updated regulations will take place. And the department has strongly recommended that school systems begin to work towards the implementation of these laws now. The following will show you a summary of the changes, and in your packets you will see the changes distinguished by the red text. So physical restraints. What is a physical restraint versus a non-physical restraint? Currently under 603 CMR 46, a physical restraint is the use of bodily force to limit a student's freedom of movement. Effective January 1st, a physical restraint will be defined as a direct physical contact that prevents or significantly restricts a student's freedom of movement. Not a physical restraint currently is the touching or holding a student without the use of force, which includes a physical escort, touching to provide instructional assistance, or other forms of content that do not include the use of force. However, effective after January 1st, not a physical restraint is brief physical contact to promote student safety, providing physical guidance or prompting when teaching a skill, redirecting attention, providing comfort, or physical escort. This slide here was taken from the Department of Ed's slideshow, where Paul Bottom is the contact person and the go-to person at the Department of Ed for us. The use of restraints and the supported CPI methodology is that it's not a form of punishment. And that's very important. It is not a form of punishment. It is an emergency procedure. It is only to be used as a last resort when a student's behavior possesses a threat of assault or immediate serious physical harm, whether it's to themselves or whether it's to others. We do not use restraints when the student cannot be safely restrained, which includes some medical contradictions, as a standard response to any student, or as a means of discipline or punishment, as a response to property destruction, school disruption, or refusal to comply with a verbal directive. There is some terminology which is prohibited, which is the chemical medication restraint. This is a prohibited medication that is prescribed by a physician and authorized by the parent, is not considered a physical or medication restraint. A mechanical restraint as of January 1st, 2016 is prohibited. Seclusion, the involuntary confinement of a student alone in a room or area from which the student is physically prevented from leaving. And a prone restraint. The Blackstone-Millville Regional School District does not ever allow the use of a prone restraint due to our CPI methodology. That does not allow any restraint to be done on the floor due to severe risk, such as asphyxiation. Once again, the district does not allow for any of those types of restraints.
Any of those 1 through 4, or any of those number 4?
We can't do any of those 4.
1 through 4, okay.
Timeouts. If a timeout is required, staff is present, they continually observe the student, and there's a procedure for obtaining the principal approval to extend the timeout longer than 30 minutes if that's needed. An inclusionary timeout occurs when the student is removed from full participation in classroom activities, but still remains within the classroom. So that could be like a pull aside. An exclusionary timeout occurs when the student is separated, either in a walled-off space within the classroom or in a separate timeout space elsewhere in the building. The district approves the use of the timeouts when a student is displaying behaviors that are unsafe and are overly disruptive. We received guidance from this from Murphy, Hesse, Toomey, and Lehane, who are the special ed attorneys for the district. And there are reporting requirements. When to report. As of January 1st, any use of restraint must be reported. The reporting happens by notifying school administration as soon as possible, and a written report by the next school working day. Parents are notified verbally within 24 hours by the principal or the program director, and by a written report within 3 school working days. The student and the parent must be allowed to comment.
So everything in red is new.
Everything in red is new. So the contents of a written report: who was restrained, who participated in the restraint, who observed, who was notified, and when. If longer than 20 minutes, the name of the principal or designee who approved the continuation, and the date and time. And what happened before, during, and after the restraint? Describe the alternative methods that had been attempted. In behavior, we call that the A, B, and the C, the antecedent, the behavior, and then the consequence. And then there's a data review and the reporting to the department. Individual student review weekly by a principal is to identify individual students restrained multiple times within the previous week and convene a review team to consider several things. Any reports, analyze the circumstances and the factors, strategies to reduce or eliminate the use of the restraint, a written plan of action, and that is continued with an administrative review that occurs monthly to look at the patterns of use and commonalities, any modifications to the restraint policy that may need to be made, and does there need to be any additional training. So I bring this forth to you this evening simply for you to consider in perhaps updating the district's policies and procedures for those critical incidences where we may have to implement a crisis prevention plan of action on behalf of a student.
Does anyone have any questions for Ms. Braverman?
I do. So has this training already taken place?
Yes.
And do we have any, I don't know what they're called here, but EAs or assistants taking this training, or is it strictly for teachers?
Okay. What we have decided to do within the district is to have each building identify what we call a crisis team.
Mm-hmm. How many is on that team?
The crisis team is really decided upon the building principal. So that principal may identify the school nurse, the school adjustment counselor, perhaps a guidance counselor, teachers who work perhaps in some of the programs where these behaviors are more likely to occur. There may be a principal or an assistant principal. So each team has some common denominators, but they really meet the individual needs of each building.
So how many are on the team, let's say?
So it can vary from 5 to 7.
Okay. So with the social emotional room being at the complex, I guess my question is, are the people in that room trained?
Yes.
All of them? Or just the teachers, not the EAs?
Right now, we do have more training we will do with our paraprofessionals. But right now, our crisis team that comes on deck are our certified personnel who are certified through the Department of Ed and also CPI trained.
And so they consist of, and I'm only using the complex right now because that's where our high population is right
Absolutely.
now. But so it consists of, at the complex, it
School
consists.
adjustment counselor.
Okay.
School psychologist. The teacher for the behavioral classroom.
Okay. Principal.
Principal.
Nurse.
Nurse will be trained. She hasn't been trained yet. But we have 2 principals, even though we have one at JFK and one at AMF, both come when there is that type of a need. So there's 2 people on deck. And also our BCBA has been trained.
How many teachers, like outside? So whenever they call for this, everybody comes, right?
Everybody comes.
Right. So how many of those are staff outside of that room? Because it could be students within. It doesn't have to be that room in particular. But I'm just curious on how many teachers wanted to be a part of this.
Yes. And there are other teachers in the building who had been trained in the past. And some of the concern was that if and when these incidents happen, we're taking a teacher away from a class of 17, 23 children. So that's why we decided that we would really focus our efforts on the crisis team, that personnel that are not dedicated to students throughout the day, but will be able to have that flexibility to do what I call stop, drop, and roll, all hands on deck, without compromising the education of other students.
But there will be training to come for those paraprofessionals.
Yes.
So if there is a crisis and it's in a classroom and I can't physically remove a person from the classroom, do we remove the class?
Yes, it's called a reverse evacuation. And a reverse evacuation is used when there is potentially harm to other students. Our first and foremost responsibility is the safety of all students. We also want to be mindful of what other students are witnessing. And that's why when we talk about our support services, our related support services, whether it's our OTs or our PT, and we're looking at sensory breaks and different things to help keep kids regulated. We really look at those wraparound services so things don't get to that point where we have a child become that dysregulated in that type of atmosphere. So we've created some sensory rooms. Those sensory rooms were modeled after rooms in other districts. Those sensory rooms have items in there which are designed to help de-escalate students. There are some weighted objects. There are some OT equipment. There are some padded and cushioned things. And kids have responded very well to that.
But what support, training, whatever, is done on behalf of those students who have to leave a room? In other words, there's a crisis happening in the room, so you all are going outside the room. I don't know where they go. I don't. But what follow-up or what training or what occurs with those students?
With those students, right, okay. Because we never want to happen what's called vicarious trauma.
Right.
Okay. And so we have very skilled school adjustment counselor at the complex, and she would be able to go in and be able to have a conversation with the students. I would also then recommend that either a phone call go out to the students' parents in that class or some type of letter so parents know perhaps what their child had been exposed to that day, so they weren't hearing it over the dining room table without knowing what may have happened. There are a number of things that I would like to recommend go into place so parents have heads up. And also, we don't really always know that vulnerable student that may be in a classroom who may suffer some vicarious trauma. And so that debriefing with that that mental health school adjustment counselor is very important.
The reporting, who retains those? Will that be you, or will that be?
I have asked to have a copy. I would strongly recommend the principal keep a copy. And then it is my policy or procedure to then make an additional copy for the superintendent. And that those be kept for at least the number of years, 6 years, before we can destroy records. I think that, and I know that that becomes part of the student's record.
So is that something we need to put into writing for the procedure of that, or does that need to be implemented on?
As far as the procedures, I think it's something that we could establish as part of a procedural, when we disseminate those reports, one in the child's file, one goes to the parent, one goes to the superintendent, the building principal, and to the director of special ed.
But those write-ups are automatic when something like this escalates.
Yes.
I mean, that's not something that needs to be put in place. That happens
That
as soon
happens.
as soon as this crisis
Absolutely.
happens. There needs to be some form of written.
Well, you're saying that, but the new
policy
is
requires
giving them a timeline, which doesn't seem like they had one. That's why I asked about everything in red.
Right.
So, good.
Yeah, and it also is helpful for those review teams when they're looking at any patterns, any triggers, when they're analyzing that data. So that way maybe a behavior plan can be put in place, or a modification or an action plan can be put in place. So it's essential to the debriefing process as well.
When it's recommended that students and parents, it says must be allowed to comment after the report is written, as part of writing the report? I mean, is that where the sentence ends?
That's where the sentence ends. So what I'm doing is that immediately after a incident, once the child is stabilized, or even during an episode, a parent is notified. Once the child has de-escalated, we can debrief a little more with parents. But at the time, emotions are elevated. The child's, coming down from a very stressful thing. So what I suggest is that the following day, we pull a team meeting together, a special education team meeting together, where we can really talk about the A, the B, and the C of what happened.
So the only thing that concerns me, just by listening to this, is I know the population's changing, and my concern is that usually with students that do have a crisis, there's usually a para with them at some point. And so my concern is that the hope would be that they get trained soon.
Yes.
And some type of training goes out to those teachers who may have these students. It may not be a crisis training, but some type of training to know what to do with these students on the move.
Absolutely.
I mean, I know teachers are always cool, calm, and collective no matter what, but I also think it's important, and I just think it's really important to have these paras that are with these students every day and going through this to be trained, and we really need to look at that, I think.
And I'm very pleased that you would support that, that the
Oh,
school committee
definitely.
would support that, because I think as leaders in this district, we feel as though the essential training does happen with the paras. They play such an important role with kids who have these social emotional issues.
And that's just my only concern, is that I hope that they are trained sooner rather than later. And like I said, it may not just be that social emotional room, but it may be those rooms that are, those co-teaching rooms, or I think I actually just read, in Boston, they just hire an emotional psychologist for their, not that we're Boston, but I mean, that's where it's headed. So, I would like to see, some type of training, come forth when we are looking at the budget, and hopefully something like that's in there.
Absolutely.
I'm done.
Any other?
Good points.
That's great.
Thank you. Thank you for your support.
Thank you.
Very good. Thank you very much, Mrs.
Thank you.
Braverman. Until Mr. Tringali gets back, in the packet and up on the website is a 3 to 5 year plan for the district, and it is my attempt to delineate the future in terms of the needs of the district as I see them. We believe that we have a lot of good things going on, and as we heard from our student athletes, numbers become at a critical mass, and in some areas we're already there. We feel that we have a lot of exciting things happening within this district, and change is never easy, and certainly can be uncomfortable, but I think as we move forward, change is necessary to get us where we need to be to remain competitive, both with what we offer our students as well as with surrounding other options that students and families have.
Will you be sharing this at the town at town meeting at
Yes,
some
with the-
point before we get to December, or?
Yes, with the committee's permission, I would certainly share this with both towns' leadership and boards.
Did you mean December? Before we get to do, like, FinCom meetings and
Yeah,
such?
the FinCom meetings,
So
because I know that
January.
we always get to, January, February, and they say they haven't heard from us. So I think it's important to bring this document there, share the information, and at least they have it when they are talking financials, not after.
Right.
Not after they have it set in stone. So that's why I'm saying, I know this is a busy time of year, but I really think it's important to get to those selectmen meetings,
Yep.
get put on the agenda and discuss this, so that it's in, the forefront of their minds, and not after they've come to their budget.
And that would be with, again, once the committee sees this and digests it and gives me the okay, I would take it to both towns' December selectmen meetings.
What more do we have to do on the roofs?
The roofs are in, both Millville and the high school roofs are in closeout phase. It's a lot of documentation that we're trying to get from general contractors and back and forth to the architects and the project managers so that we can get those to final audit. And we're pushing them to do that over the next several weeks, so we get those off the table. But the work is complete, and on both of them, and it's really a lot of paperwork to get that before MSBA for the final audit.
So if you were to look at that document, I'm reading it as though we really need to look at the high school, the infrastructure at the high school, the buildings.
Yes.
And the hiring process. Those seem like the two
Science
biggest, and the
curriculum.
science, sorry.
Yep.
I lost the packet.
Yeah, I would agree that certainly the infrastructure in both the high school and JFK and AFM, we had the New England School Development Council perform a facilities assessment, and with both of those, I think the next step is to bring those to the towns to let them digest it and see where the future is. Obviously, this is just the beginning of a rather lengthy process to get folks to realize the gravity of the situation. I think, we have one of the oldest high schools in the eastern part of the state. It functions well, but the infrastructure and the building systems certainly need to be replaced and upgraded, along with JFK and to a degree AFM. There's an opportunity to really do all of the work that's necessary at once. Again, the next steps after the towns would digest this would be to provide a statement of interest to MSBA and get in the queue again for hopefully their share of any future work on those schools. I liken it to our own homes. We don't have the same windows that we had in 1965 and 1970, and certainly the towns have shown the willingness to maintain the buildings by the roofs that we have now, so that we are in very good shape with that. But we do have heating and ventilation systems. We have exterior glass and perimeter doors, and then certainly the interiors, certainly at JFK and AFM, need to be modernized, as well as some of the curriculum space at the high school with the science labs. So there is certainly, I would agree, those are the pressing areas. The curriculum and the technology kind of go hand in hand, and I made reference to the science standards that have been pushed back, but we think are going to be finalized soon, and obviously that represents a significant investment in K-8 to bring our science curriculum up to whatever is adopted, and I believe too the HR piece of it. Certainly, school districts are a lot different than the private sector. We tend to respond to holes in needs. We don't really project and plan, but certainly a lot of that goes hand in hand with the Unit A negotiations that we're embarking on, because that has a huge impact across the ability to hire the best people and retain the best people. And that sometimes for us, given our location, can be a challenge. But I think that continuity is so important because of the time that it takes to go out and post and then interview, select, hire, train, manage, is a tremendous amount of resources and time and money. And I mentioned that in FY14 we had to, because the budget cycle was so late, we had to engage in some very challenging personnel decisions. In last year's, at the end of FY15, we didn't have nearly the amount of work, but we had a significant amount of work. And so I think that is very important to plan, and certainly around the opportunity to negotiate the next professional employee contract, teacher contract, will be one area that will engage us there. So
Georgette has a question.
I'm sorry.
About the library at the high school, what have we decided with that? Like, when is that going to happen? Like, we're going to get a librarian, or what are we doing with that?
Well, certainly the staffing of it, the LMC coordinator who can integrate the usage of that space will be discussed.
Is that in this part of this
That's
plan?
not in this per se. Certainly the library area, as part of the study that NESDEC did, is addressed.
We
But,
haven't gotten that NESDEC report yet.
the committee did get a copy of them, but we have that was the initial one that was done
Yeah.
The written.
in the spring, yes. That's what this,
I'm talking about the site visit specifically. We haven't.
That's
the NEASC.
The
The
NEASC,
NEASC,
I'm
yes,
sorry.
that
You just
that
said
is
NEASC.
supposed to be coming in within 60 days. And so I would expect that we see that.
I'm talking about accreditation. I
Right.
think she is too, so
I know,
that's
Right,
why I was there.
right. But in terms of the staffing involved in that becomes part of the budget process. I think in terms of
I guess I'm
the
confused.
accreditation piece of it.
Yeah.
I don't really see, I'm not getting out of the human resource information you put on here,
Mhm.
how this falls into
Unit
a
A.
3
Or
to
a-
5 year plan.
Right.
I don't really I get the technology and curriculum, like, where we want to be in 3 to 5 years. What are you saying?
What are you saying here in this?
We're moving towards in 3 to 5 years with human resources?
Well, I think that we need to develop continuity with our staff, and I think that has been a challenge, at least in the last couple of years, for us.
So
And-
how do you vision that happening?
Well, I think that we need to have professional development around the hiring, the interviewing and the hiring process. We need to make sure that that everyone makes the best decisions possible. If there are other opportunities, such as reaching out to area universities to get recent graduates, I think that all of those go hand in hand, because there's a real cost to having to continue to hire. And there's a certain amount that's going to happen anyway.
Right.
But I think the very real nuts and bolts of the time it takes to hire and replace is what I was referring to here.
And there's a piece of that, and maybe I read between too many lines, but there's a piece of that too that says that we need to make sure that our personnel infrastructure, if you will, is supportive. You know, that if we're wanting people, you know, yes, it's about the dollars they make, but it's about the professional development that they can get while they're
That's in the
here. It's
contract.
about
That's
so it is
contractual.
really a lot of the contractual
Yep.
piece, but it's also a lot of the, you know, I mean, 2 years ago, we were sitting with just a superintendent. We didn't have the assistant superintendent. We didn't really have a technology, I mean, now we have Osiris, a technology person, but, you know, do those kinds of support networks, you know, need to be beefed up and need to, you know, not like, I'm not trying to, you know, add to the district, you know, personnel thing, but it's that kind of, if I'm new and you've hired me, I not only want to know that, you know, my salary will increase over time, or, you know, that it's competitive with others in the area, but that, you know, I have a good mentorship program, that I have a good support network in terms of training when there is new curriculum developed, that I have a good rapport with the people that I report to.
And that should be happening now.
Right, but
it's building principal and the mentor.
Continuity of structure, yes.
But you're not, I just want to clarify that this is not saying we need to add a human resource department.
No, that's not saying,
And-
no, not at all.
And, I mean, because to me, that's just
No.
something we can't conquer.
Not at all.
I
I only
didn't
put the whole, the managing of staff under the title of human resources. we certainly have the capability and the ability now to move that forward. And as a piece of that, that would be
I just
negotiations
think
and structure.
before we distribute this, like Wendy asked about sharing it.
I think we need to make it very clear.
You could call it
I
personnel
think we
instead
need,
of-
might need to change the
Yeah.
title of that.
You could call it personnel.
Yeah, this is again, just
working document.
one man's opinion draft.
Yeah.
I probably should have
This is the beginning.
listed that across
But you
at
did
an
say
angle.
with your blessing, I'll share it, and I want to make sure we know
Right.
that we,
Yeah,
it's a
I-
work in progress
it's-
right now.
Yeah.
Yep. A draft document.
Reading.
Let me,
But we do want it to, we, with the hope that it gets out soon.
yes.
Because we
yes.
want to make sure that the towns get this information before, not after that they finish
Right.
their budget.
And, I mean, I can certainly tweak the verbiage on that first section to maybe get a little bit away from HR
I
and
took
call
it,
it personnel and support, yeah.
I read between the wrong lines.
Yep, no, that's fine.
I was right
Because
on
it is-
that.
And I
Yeah,
was like,
because
whoa.
it is a draft, but I mean, I can rewrite that and send it to you.
Okay.
So
your
that
time.
it's, well, it's,
I
so
don't
it's
think we need to,
clearer.
I personally, I know what Wendy's saying about December, but I think January would be more realistic for us.
Well.
And that's when the FinCom's, Millville doesn't even have a FinCom right now.
Yeah, no, that's
So-
fine, that's fine.
Yep.
As long as it's
I-
before,
I shouldn't say
my
that
thing is
exactly.
before, not
An
after, so
interim.
that they don't
Yep.
say they haven't got this
Right,
information.
Or know where we're going.
They know where we're going and they know why we need it.
Right.
You know, we do have now an assistant, we do have, you know, Wen Cobb, we do have Osiris, so now let's get the
And I-
media, and
yeah.
let's handle these concerns that continuously are being addressed with us.
Right.
Now that we're building that HR.
Yeah, and I think too, the towns were, and the boards of selectmen, the finance committees, were very open to having that sort of dialogue.
But they always asked, we want to see a 3 to 5 year plan. They definitely
Right.
brought that up the
This is
last.
And what I would do is redraft this and then add it to both of the NESDEC studies on
Good.
AFM and JFK
Yeah.
as well as the high school, and I think that's a good jumping off point to bring it before the boards. So once I do the rewrite and the draft, then you give me the okay.
Clearly shows need. Yeah.
Let's get back to these
So why don't we
deeper-
move over to?
Yep. Okay, so I can give you the background on the.
Yeah. You know what, let's move on. We're gonna skip around again.
Okay.
And go
To goals.
to school committee review of superintendent goals. The most updated one, if you could correct me if I'm wrong,
Yep.
was included in our packet.
Yes.
So I'm hoping everyone has taken the time to, it's definitely been worked on by Alan and Wendy have gone back, added some great pieces to it. And I think at this point, we would just like to make sure these are set and the working document is sealed as the goals for this year.
Yeah.
Are you
Yeah,
okay
I'm
with that?
very comfortable with it. I know
We
that.
don't need to vote, but that's just a.
Yeah, I do know that both Dr. Thompson and Mrs. Greenstein both said these are lofty goals, these are challenging goals. And if I don't make every single one of them come true, I'm okay with that, but I will work.
I didn't hear
But they
that.
have, well,
But I will work towards making sure that we realize these goals, because that's the direction we
We
have
need
to
to go.
get to.
but my only concern is that they have to be attainable.
Yep.
So although was my only concern, is that these are lofty,
Yep.
and my concern is that I want to make sure they're attainable, which means by the end of the year, the hope is that,
We can
you
be
know,
there. Yep.
we can be there. So if they're lofty, that's fine,
And they
but they
are.
have to be attainable. And that's
Well,
my
So
concern.
based
Yep.
on that, do you feel they are attainable?
well, I believe that they are now. We did tweak this a little bit with some of the numbers to make them
Right,
a little more reflective in terms of making them SMART goals.
Yeah.
There's a lot of work here. It does certainly become the template for the leadership team and for department heads to look at and say, this is where we're going. And, I can't thank, there's an awful lot of people that do a lot of hard work in this district to get us where we are. and they have to know this is where we have to get to. And it's never, put the feet up on the desk, the work is done. The game of public education is constantly changing, it's constantly evolving. I believe we have a leadership team that is up to the task and has tremendous talent on it. Dr. Thompson has been a terrific co-pilot on getting a lot of this work in front of folks and to make sure that everybody knows where we have to go. It's reflected on the district improvement plan. It is reflected here on my goals, and if these are adopted, we will do everything we can to make them happen.
Okay. And you're saying if they're adopted, I don't think we needed to vote on that. I think we're just
If you give the affirmation, if
giving
that's what you want me to
them,
do, then.
these are your goals.
Yeah.
They were worked on by all of us
Okay.
through many hours
Yep.
of, okay. So
And this gets put on the wall,
you'll,
above the desk.
Tacked up.
Yep.
you'll be working hard as you already have.
Yep.
So.
Will do.
I think they're
Thank
great.
you.
I think they're really good.
And moving on, we have the curriculum update report of the assistant superintendent.
Yep, thank you. Real quick, we are a little update on the Envisions math program. If you remember from the update last week, we did do a survey of all the teachers asking what kind of further professional development that they wanted with the new math program. And they basically said they wanted to work more on the lesson development, specifically looking at planning in groups with some leadership and training with that. So we're in the process of working on that with our trainer, as well as working on the technology piece. Teachers at this point are in the process or have finished setting up the student portals and being able to assign the support materials that are there. But there's a whole nother world of assessment in there, as well as the home support and making sure we're maximizing that. I would encourage parents, as soon as they get those student logins, to log in with their children, take a look at what's there. There are lessons that are videos that reteach the lessons. There are practice, what's called Practice Buddy, which is, or another look, I think at K-2 level, which is powered by IXL, which Pearson has just bought up, to really put forth and practice skills. So that's what's happening on the Envision program. I did have the great opportunity today to teach fifth grade math.
How was that?
I haven't taught math in 15 years.
What building were you in?
I was in Millville.
You were?
And did you receive a necklace?
I did receive it. I did not wear it. I'm sorry.
You had it on.
I had it on.
You had
and
it on.
everyone has stopped me and asked me why there's an I around my neck.
Hold
But had a great time in fifth grade with Mrs. Faulkner and her class,
Do you know what group
teaching
you
the
had?
new math program.
Yeah.
Yes, your daughter was there too. Yes.
Amanda. Do you
You have a
recognize
new math
anyone up
teacher
here?
today?
Math today?
Did you have a math teacher?
You want to give us your, no. We won't let her do the evaluation.
Right. No, we learned a lot. It really is a great program. Using the vocabulary, just the growth in the students and the excitement in the program is really inspirational. I have to give kudos out to our teaching staff. I think everyone needs to realize that we have a lot going on at the elementary level, really trying to a lot of work in a short amount of time. We have the literacy initiative, we have the math initiative, we have mapping coming up. There's a lot going on, and the teachers are really working hard, and we do appreciate all their efforts. The other piece I want to report out on, as you know, we're looking for a new platform for our curriculum mapping. We are using X2 Aspen, which is also our student information system, and our portal that parents use. We are going to be using that as our curriculum mapping portal as well. And Wednesday the 18th, I am pretty much going to be locked in a room with the person to set that up to my high standards. They finally give up trying to talk to me on the phone. They're going to come out and spend time with me on the 18th, so we look forward to that opportunity as well and being able to launch that.
Should we send snacks?
Yes, send snacks, send water, maybe a pillow for
Knock on the door.
depending on how long it goes, but we'll be working on that on a week from yesterday.
As a parent, I do appreciate the letter that you sent out.
Thank you.
I think it was really helpful. I have been on the site. I like math, so I enjoyed it. So I'm probably not typical, but
Right.
my daughter enjoys it. I mean, she tries to work ahead, which she probably is not supposed to do, but that's the first time I've seen her try to do that. So.
But you know what's good with that site is there's enrichment, there's reteaching, there's videos.
Yeah.
So the sooner you can get onto that website, I mean, my son got on it last week and watched a video because he didn't understand how to transfer hundreds to tens, and he watched the video and did the homework, and you know.
And I think for parents too, because I know there's been tremendous amount of discussion about, you know, this is a new way and it's not the way that I learned. But I think if you watch some of that stuff, you'll be like, oh, you know, this, I get it. Or if you don't get it, it gives you the questions to ask.
Right.
But it's really the Common Core. You know, it's the
Those are the words people don't want.
I know it's not the words people want to hear, but you know, it's not necessarily a program. It's the Common Core. So I think it's a new way of learning, and it's uncomfortable.
Critical
and
thinking.
It's critical thinking, and it makes second graders explain. And when I can honestly say when I'm helping my son who does not like to write in math, and I'm doing the same thing, teaching it in 5th grade, and it's the same. Explain your reasoning. Right. You know, or look at, you know, why is that person wrong, and they have to write the reason. You know, it's a different way of thinking, and it's not easy, but it definitely will pay off. And I think it's important just to understand that, you know, it's the Common Core. It's not necessarily a program. It's just we've been so far behind in aligning ourselves, and that's the true. What's happening now is we're starting to align ourselves.
Right, and it is. I mean, you know, and I talked a little bit about this before, but it's not just it's about learning the reasons behind the standard algorithm and why the math works the way it does, and seeing the patterns and the trends that happen, and building that mathematical understanding, and hearing even kids today talking about to their partners and their study buddies next to them as to how and why this was happening. Those are really encouraging because they're really explaining and really thinking deeply about math. And what we will eventually see, and this is a transition, and parents need to be patient and support their children, but it is a transition. They will see their students be able to talk and apply math in their everyday life because they're doing it in the classroom. And if they can do that and build that kind of understanding, then we open a whole door of higher level math to them, which is what they're going to be required in the jobs of the future. So, and you know, just quickly on the Common Core piece, but people don't realize, and it actually is kind of a funny conversation here in Massachusetts, because about 80 to 85%, depending on the grade level, of Common Core is based on the old Massachusetts standards. The difference is we're asking kids to apply it at a higher level with a deeper level of understanding.
And critically think about it.
So, you know, when you say, oh, I'm against the Common Core, I mean, then you probably were against the standards we had in Massachusetts if you're using that same logic. You know, the difference is it's not just the knowledge piece, it's the application of the knowledge piece. And like you said, Mrs. Reggio, it's the critical thinking. And, you know, when the original standards came out, you know, in 93, 94, you know, the business organization that was pushing this wanted to have kids who knew things. And the educators said, well, that's great, they'll know things, but can they apply them? Well, here we are, you know, 20 years later, and the business is saying, well, they know a lot of stuff, but they can't use it. Well, this is why the standards have changed and why we are asking students to do these things. We want them to be able to apply, because unless you hand them the algorithm and say, do the math this way, like is on a worksheet, they can't apply it to real life, and that doesn't really help them see mathematically. So it is a transition, and we are asking our elementary teachers to do a lot of transitioning, a lot of things right now, but they are working hard and they are making progress, and the growth that I've seen in 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade classrooms is just amazing, and I have to give kudos to that. So
I think what I've noticed is a lot of the pushback is coming from the higher grades. I think the kids starting with it in the younger grades are not going to know any different, so they're going to carry it. But there was a reason we implemented it K to 5.
Right.
Could you just remind people of that?
We are.
I think one concern I just want to point out is 5th grade parents are saying they're going to learn it this year, and then they don't have the same curriculum next year. So, but we already knew that, and it's still good for them in that sense.
Right.
So.
But we not only need to up our elementary curriculum, we need to build a middle school curriculum that follows it.
Carry it.
So the hope is, and obviously this is a budget discussion, but the hope is that we are implementing a middle school math program that is similar in philosophy and approach that will bring kids through 8th grade, and overall the Object is to have everybody finishing an algebra course by the time they finish 8th grade. And I say everybody in quotes, most of our students. That's what we need to get to. We need to have students going into freshman year taking geometry.
Yeah.
Okay, so if you think back to when we went to school, when we were freshmen, maybe even sophomores, we took algebra. We're now asking 8th grade kids to do that level of math. In order to do that, you have to build that understanding, and we need to follow through. So the hope is, and the plan is, at some point, the students who are in 5th grade, who are in 4th grade, who have the bigger transition, because they have not had the vocabulary all the way up through. But they will be continuing on, if not next year, definitely the year after, with a program that is similar. So they need to learn this vocabulary as soon as possible.
Thank you so much.
Welcome.
So now we're actually going to move back to consent agenda A that we can take a vote. It's okay. So I'm actually just looking for a motion for.
Move consent agenda A.
Second.
Motion made by Jane, second by Wendy. Any discussion? Okay.
Thanks
All
for
those
waiting.
in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay, unanimous. And then we had 2 items under report of superintendent that we need to vote, and we'll move back.
And one was the approval of the transfer, also in the warrant packet. And this is just a simple transfer from one agency account to the student activity account. The amount is $22,232.07, and that would be just like an additional piece of the warrant process, moving it into the proper account.
Where is it coming from?
It's coming from the agency
all-
account, the money market account, moving it into the student activity account.
Motion to approve
Motion
the
to
transfer.
approve the transfer from agency account to student account in the amount of $22,232.07.
So moved.
Motion made by Jane. Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion, questions? Besides mine that I asked before. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay.
Thank you.
then-
And the last one is a request to hire an additional English language learner teacher. This is a direct result of our rapid increase in students where English is not their first language. And we have had a rapid increase here. We hired an additional teacher in the budget. The numbers still kept climbing.
Wow.
Part of the problem is that, not part of the problem, part of the assignment is that many of these students, their scores are so low, they have very little acquisition of any English. And so that requires, based upon the new regs that came out in August, thank you, Department of Ed, for August, so we're already having our budget set and fixed. We have a tremendous amount of materials to purchase. We have a tremendous amount of hours that are required for students that have the minimal acquisition of the language. And the goal is, under the law, is to offer the proper teaching so that they can acquire the language skills. Based upon the placement of the students, where the majority are at JFK and AFM. We'd also have a fairly large cohort at the middle school. We know that 3 teachers may not be enough if the numbers continue to rise through this year.
Good.
But we do request a 3rd ELL teacher. That salary obviously would be prorated, so the impact to the budget would be about 3/4 of the year, maybe a little bit less by the time we get that person hired. We have also had, as you have seen, 6 resignations over the last several weeks, so we're trying to fill those. So there's additional money in the salary lines that we're not spending, so that we think, given the fact that we are in mid-November, we should be able to balance the salary lines, but we are very much in need of a 3rd ELL teacher to meet the requirements of both the law and to meet our students' needs. So I would respectfully ask the committee to approve a 1.0 ELL teacher to start as soon as we can find one.
And funding of that?
Well, it will come out of the
Savings from
the savings
people.
from
Offset from the other job.
the offsets from the fact that we haven't paid those positions. We will not pay those positions all the way through.
What did we
And
put
that-
in the budget for the ELL teacher?
I believe it was 50,000.
50. So it'd be like three-quarters of that.
Right.
Yeah.
Right, maybe a little bit less by the time they get hired. It's going to be closer to the end of the month, early December, if approved.
So,
Okay, so I'm looking for a motion
So moved?
to approve the
second?
FTE request. Motion made by Steve, second by Jane. Any discussion?
I can just do like a real quick, I mean, I know this, but an ELL teacher doesn't just translate. Can you just give like a 4-sentence description of what an ELL teacher does for the people that don't know?
Well, an ELL teacher, aside from coordinating the interpretation and translation of so much, has to be able to assist in the classroom to get students to acquire their literacy skills in the English language.
Okay.
So what often happens is the ELL teacher will work with the core area teachers, find key vocabulary, teach that in isolation, try to parallel what's going on in the classroom, often push in and support them, and then come back out. So they are teaching how to acquire the language and giving the opportunity to acquire the language.
Because some people have said, well, how can one person know all those languages?
They don't.
It doesn't matter what languages they're teaching. They don't need to know 15 different languages.
English.
It's how they acquire
teaching
English.
them how to acquire the language and
Exactly.
giving them the opportunity to
Exactly.
acquire the language.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay, it's unanimous.
Thank you very much to the committee. And I believe that concludes my report. Thank you.
Next is public forum. Thank you. We had a
Amanda, you got anything?
great one to begin with. Amanda, I forgot she was here. Moving on to school committee forum. Anyone want to go first?
I'll be the first one to say congratulations to our marching band. It was a tremendous night tonight when they came home. That was really great to see. And congratulations. I know Griffin is at their banquet right now, so I know he's having a good time there.
Kara's there too.
Yeah, that's right. They worked hard and they deserve everything they got.
It was actually nice I took my kids with Erin to see the band come home. And, I just want to thank Blackstone and Millville for setting up everything. I mean, they had the candles going all the way down the school. They had the fire trucks. They had the police. My kids were in awe, and they didn't even know where we were going. And I said, we're going to watch the band come home. And they said, we're going to watch them come off the bus. And I said, yeah. And then they were there, and they were just, it was nice to see a large group, the community come out and see the trophy. And, it was nice. It was nice. So congratulations.
Who put the candles out? That was really cool.
It was great.
No, I know, but who?
There was
It
a
must
couple
have
of
been
There were a bunch of
parents.
parents that did it.
Yeah.
Must have
But
been
the band parents did it.
There was a couple of
I
parents
actually
that
think it was
did
Brad Monroe and his wife.
Oh,
They did a
Kathy.
really great job.
they were really awesome.
Did they also have to
Yeah.
blow them
Yeah.
all out?
There was a handful of folks that worked pretty hard there.
Yeah.
It was
Got 'em
great.
all
It was
done.
really nice driving into the high school and seeing it.
Was that
So,
taped?
You know, I don't know.
People
if Jesse was
have,
there.
people
I was
have
hoping,
posted their
'cause I
own
was working.
personal,
Yeah.
people have posted their own personal things, but I don't know if it was.
Jesse, were you there?
I just
don't
think
he
it's,
was there.
I just want to thank everybody who did come out and congratulate them.
Yes.
And, it was nice. It was nice to see.
Oh, anything else?
Oh, actually, a similar thing. We need to buy some jackets for the band.
That's right.
I did reach out to Mr. Schaefer today to see the last time we purchased them and what that would look like. So if we want to talk about that now, we can.
I think I have that one.
So he said we actually bought them in 2013.
But we only bought the ones who needed it.
And, right, so
Right.
he said they won the New England Championship and the school committee purchased jackets. We should remember that.
Yeah, I do. I remember we were asking how many, and it wasn't the whole entire band, it was just the ones who needed.
So he said because of that, the seniors, juniors, and most of the sophomores have jackets. He said it's a handful of sophomores, all the freshmen, 15, he gave me the number, and 19 middle school students. So my question with that, and I haven't responded to him yet, is, so if we're able to do the jackets for that number, are we doing a patch for the other
Yeah,
kids?
something.
Yeah,
They should
because
get
they,
something.
the ones that already have a
Yeah,
jacket.
That's how it works. They first thing they get is a jacket. If they already have a jacket,
And
they
then
get
they
an
can add
additional
to it.
patch.
Mhm.
And the idea
Okay.
is to fill their arm with
That would be great.
patches.
Yeah.
That's-
So I don't know, do you want to make a motion on that, or do you want
Well,
to
do we
get
have-
pricing first? Or, I mean, they've been the same forever, so we already know what we
They usually get
want.
it from Steve Grogan Marciano's out in Brockton or Mansfield.
Mansfield.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the standard place, but I don't know if we have a number yet.
Well, we have 15 freshmen and 19 middle school.
But in terms
Some.
of price, I don't know.
So I'll ask him to work to get us
Yeah.
a number.
Yeah.
Okay, that would be great. Anything else?
Sorry.
I just wanted to thank the teachers for the parent-teacher conferences. I know they're long, and I know, they put a lot of effort and time into setting up conferences so that parents can be informed. So I just want to let them know that we appreciate their time that they put in for those parent-teacher conferences. I'm done.
Jane?
Again, to congratulate the band. It's tremendous, and I do hope that they get patches. They should get something else. People get championship rings or something like that. I don't know. They should get something.
And we did send them
cupcakes.
Cake Boss.
Yes, thanks.
We tried to have Cake Boss meet the bus, but he was in Disney.
Oh, jeez.
That wasn't possible, but the cupcakes got to them.
There you
so.
go. Well, that was great. But in welcoming the band back, many of us missed the Millville Town meeting, and so I would like to, formally say Millville Special Town Meeting is coming up this Monday, and hopefully more people can be in attendance to that, because Joe's usually here and he supports us well, so hopefully we can support the town and get enough people there for quorum. And that's it.
Thank you. Georgette?
Again, I want to say thank you I will congratulate the marching band, and thank you to everyone that was involved with making this happen. Thank you to the students that came here from the fall athletes, from the fall athletic programs. Good luck to the ones that are still playing.
So I'll, of course, echo all of that for the band. We definitely couldn't be prouder, and it's good to be proud and loud. And I think that the help of our two communities, escorting them through the towns was a wonderful way to let them come home. And I saw several pictures from their their New York trip, but I hope to hear more about that. I know they're very busy right now, so we won't invite them, but I would like to hear the highlights of that. I'm sure when Griffin is here, he'll share that too. I was just going to ask you, Mr. Himmelberger, for a little information on our new website. We have the events calendar that it used to be updated by Joanne Arquetto. So I think we definitely need to get someone. But with your permission, I was wondering if I could reach out to Osiris to talk about some school committee parts of this and the calendar, like having all the schools have a calendar that go into one, but I just want your permission.
Yep,
to.
no, that's fine. I think
Okay.
this is still a lot of work in progress to load and reload
Right now,
all
we
the
don't
content
we don't seem to
back in
have an
there.
events calendar. So-
Osiris is pretty flat out, he and Sam right now, but you could certainly reach out to him, and Dave and I can let him know
Mhm.
of what will be coming down the road.
That he's allowed to talk to me.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
I'm sure he is.
Absolutely.
Yeah, because I've gotten several requests, and I think other people have talked about it, how this calendar it's key to letting parents know sporting events and honor roll breakfasts and report card dates. So, and along with having a placement of it, we need to make sure there's someone putting that. It was always full of information before, so I don't think there's anyone.
Right. Well, and I know that the plan is to have the buildings entering their own.
Right. And then it would come into here.
It'll all come into there, but.
Yeah. There's not a calendar on each school page, and I know it's a work in progress still,
Right.
but we definitely need to do that sooner than later for. And besides that, I'm sure I'm forgetting something that I wanted to mention.
No, I think it's important to have a district calendar.
Yeah.
If that's one of the most important things to have on the website, it's definitely that. I mean, because it's the first place you go if you misplace the paper calendar.
Right, that came
you go
home,
right
or the
on
thing
and
that
you
came
try and
home,
find it. So
right.
if it's not there.
Well, that is, the school calendar is here, actually, and you can, it's a little harder to get to this page.
Right.
The one that's printed out and sent home. So we just need to make it a little more touch friendly. And that was all I had. Our next meeting is December 10th. That will be our last meeting for this year, and it will be here at the middle school. And of course, any agenda items, send them my way. I do need to back up for 1 second. I'm sorry, I knew there was something and I wrote it down. So we have a subcommittee for negotiations. We are already in progress with that. Regional agreement is already in progress. We definitely are going to need a budget subcommittee. I think the last few years, it has been all of us, and there's been a lot of change in our leadership, and I think this year we might be able to have a smaller subcommittee of members and just having you guys, having anyone report back to us, because, you know, Alan knows our way now, and it's just a very busy time. So what I'd like to ask is if anyone definitely wants to be on that, to please email me before the next meeting. Otherwise, just like my kids' chores at home, I have no problem sending out the to-do list.
Chore list, huh?
She's not even listening. And with that, I'm done. So, a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Motion made by Wendy. Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Ayes have it. Good night.
Very good. Thank you.